Do you know what I love most about self-publishing? Look, I know it's not for everyone. Nothing is. But if you've considered self-publishing for even a minute, listen up. The opportunities for self-published authors are only increasing. In fact, according to Publishers Weekly, a survey commissioned by the Alliance of Independent Authors found that income from self-published authors increased substantially in 2022 compared to 2021, and that independent authors earn, on average, more than their traditionally published counterparts. But people think the self-publishing process is a lot harder than it is, and they're understandably afraid of doing it, air quote, wrong. So I've created a new free resource for anyone contemplating this approach but unsure where to start. It's called the Self-Publishing Starter Pack, and you can get instant access to it through the link in the show notes or by visiting publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101. Writing a book isn't a linear process, but publishing one is. In this free training, you'll discover the exact steps to focus on and the mistakes to avoid so you can self-publish an incredible book that's indistinguishable in quality from a New York Times bestseller without overthinking, unnecessary guessing, or spending money in areas that won't make a difference. Again, visit publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101 to get instant access. Welcome to the Write the Damn Book Already podcast. My name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm a 6-time author and book editor, and I help people write and publish powerful, thought-provoking, wildly entertaining books without any more overthinking, second-guessing, or overwhelm than absolutely necessary. Because let's face it, some overthinking, second-guessing, and overwhelm is going to come with the territory if you're anything like me. I believe that story and shared perspective are two of the most potent ways we connect with one another, and that your story, perspective, and insights are destined to become someone else's favorite resource or pastime. For more book writing and publishing tips and solutions, and plenty of free and low-cost resources, visit publishaprofitablebook.com. And for recommendations of fabulous books you've possibly never heard of, book writing inspiration, and the occasional meme so relatable you'll wonder if it was created with you in mind, follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth Lyons Author. Oh my gosh, honestly, just when I think I've met all the cool kids, I meet another one. And they're all on the East Coast, which, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are on the East Coast, which is making me think I need to plan a trip back to my homeland. If you don't know, I'm from Delaware. I know many people don't know where Delaware is, but it is on the East Coast, and I haven't been back in a very long time. In this episode of Write the Damn Book Already, I got to meet and speak with Sarahlnn Brock. To say it was the highlight of my week is an understatement, and it's only Tuesday. Sarahlyn is the author of 3 books. Her third book, Light of the Fire, comes out January 23rd of 2024 with Lake Union Publishing. And as you know, I let these conversations go where they go, and I'm never disappointed, knock on wood, with where they end up going. This one was so much fun. I know you are going to absolutely love Sarahlyn's revelations about book writing, book coaching, book publishing, her publishing experience, her editing experience, multiple POVs, all of it. I went way over time, and I still didn't even get to some of the questions that I wanted to ask based on what she was saying during the interview. So all that means is that we're going to have to do this again. But for now, enjoy this interview with Sarahlnn Brock. All of the resources to get in touch with her, to order her books, to pre-order her next book, all of it are in the show notes. Light of the Fire is book 3, yes?
Book 3, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in full admission, I'm not through it yet, but I'm going to get through it probably in about 2 to 3 days once I start it, because I'm completely hooked.
Oh,
completely hooked, and also completely impressed with you because is it 3 points of view? It's not
it
dual.
is, yeah.
Okay.
It started out as dual, but it is 3. Yeah, it's 3 now.
Because I'm on the 3rd now.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is a masterpiece. I never appreciated how hard dual POV or multi POV is to do until I considered doing it myself. and I quickly aborted the mission.
Okay. But you're writing your first novel right now?
Right.
Okay. And it's single POV, but you're thinking about doing more than one?
I'm not anymore.
Well, what do you think of like people who can do like multiple POVs and then like multiple timelines?
No.
Like that
I knew you were going to say that. I
That
knew you were
makes
going to
my
say
brain
that.
blow up. Like I'm like, I don't see how they can think of all of that stuff and map it all out. It makes my brain hurt.
No, and it's one of those things again where when you're reading it and it's done really well,
Right.
you don't even think about how hard it is to create from the creative standpoint. You're just like, I am in this. This is great. When you start looking at it from a craft perspective, I can barely right now, Sarahlyn, just write a scene in the present tense in the first person. Like I have days where so the idea. Okay, so this brings me to my first question. So your other two books, Designer You and Daytime Drama, are they dual POV? Because now I have to get my hands on those too, of course.
Okay, so my first one is single POV.
Okay.
I kept it really simple.
Okay.
And I'm so glad I did.
I feel better now.
I'm so glad I did. And I think, and it was just her story. It was just this, my protagonist story. My second book, oh my God, I had so many POVs in that book. I really brought it back when I wrote my third book. I think I may have had 6 POVs, and we had one main character, but we had all of these other characters that were sort of circling around her. And I thought it was really fun just to and it actually was, that book was so much fun to write. It's set like in the world of soap operas and Hollywood, and it's about a soap opera actress and all of the people who are, in her orbit. And that was really fun to kind of get into the head of her boyfriend and her ex and her son. I loved her son and her mom. It was really fun to kind of get into those POVs. But it was definitely a juggling act for sure.
So did you choose to do it that way because you wanted to challenge yourself to do it that way? Was it okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And with every book, I hope each one gets better as I go.
Yeah.
That's
right.
We crossed,
pray.
Right? But I do like to kind of challenge myself, with each one I'd love to try, like POV, or I'd love to kind of throw in a little bit of a mystery element, or I'd love to try, a little bit of a love story, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That initially I found, really scary. So anyway, yeah, hopefully.
So who
I
encouraged you, if anyone, to pull back from the 27 POVs in book 2?
Oh, my book coach. I worked with a book coach.
Okay.
I work with a book coach.
You still do?
Yeah, I do. And actually we're very dear friends. And so
I love that.
It's really fun to be able to work with someone who is she's light years ahead of me, but still like more and more of an equal. And I rely on her advice so much. I really, really trust her. And we have such a great working relationship, but we're also just dear friends. She's good. She's planning on coming to my launch, and she lives in Canada.
Oh, I love that so much.
I know. She's
like when you
just the
see someone
best.
for the first time and you feel like you're the very best of friends, but you've actually never laid in real life, IRL,
Actually,
as they
we
say.
We have, because she'll come to New York she comes to New York every year for a conference. And so I'll meet her. I'm in Philly, so I'll meet her up there. So we have met in real life, but she's never been able to come to any of my book launches. And so she likes to do that with her clients. She's the greatest.
How did you find her?
I used to be a book coach. So,
how did I not know that?
Oh, that's okay. Cause it's not on my bio or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, that would be how, but nevertheless. Okay.
I don't do it anymore. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But back when I was writing my first published book, I reached out to Jenny Nash from Author Accelerator.
Yep.
And she had come and spoken at one of my UCLA extension classes. And I really, really liked her. And so when I was writing Designer You, I reached out to her about book coaching because I just wanted some feedback. I wanted some, some kind of accountability in that, like, I've got a deadline. I really love deadlines. I really respond to them.
So that book was agented, like you had sold that one? No. So when you say you had a deadline, was it self-imposed or
self-imposed?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that was part of what a book coach does is like, we'll say, okay, give me 10 pages by the, every week. And so it's like, and for me, I'm such a goody two shoes. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Never miss a deadline,
Right.
So I really respond to that. And anyway, Jenny Nash was just starting up Author Accelerator, and she said, hey, don't you teach writing? And I was like, yeah, I'm a writing professor. And she said, why don't you come and be a book coach for me? And so I was one of her first Author Accelerator book coaches. And I found it so much fun. And it was found it fun working with clients. But I also loved working with a book coach to help my own writing. And so she connected me with Dawn, who is also one of the early book coaches in Author Accelerator. So, and now she's got her own thing going and she's doing really well and she's still writing. And anyway, she's fabulous. But yeah, I love book coaching just from both sides of it, because I've seen how well it works just personally for me. Yeah.
You're probably the first person I've talked to who both has been one and uses one.
Yeah. I really believe in it.
I do too. I mean, it's kind of like, the analogy I always use, and I don't know why, but is that like the girl who does my hair doesn't do her own hair. Like you want someone, like neurosurgeons don't operate on their own brains.
No.
Right.
No.
So,
not.
finding someone who can see through the muck of what you're doing with fresh eyes and lend some clarity to it. For me, it's the only way that my novel has continued to evolve.
Yeah. So you're working with a book coach too.
Well, it's funny. She's not officially a book coach. It's actually, her name's Neely Alexander. She's her debut Love Buzz came out in May. Her second comes out in March.
Awesome.
In a Not So Perfect World is the title, with Harper Perennial. And she could be a book coach if she wanted to. I mean, she is so good at, number one, being like, gut it out. Just get the story on the page. You'll go back later. I'm not listening very well to that directive, but I'm trying. Because I tend to get mired in the details of wherever I am in the story. But the other thing is, she can look at it like she's removed. One of the things I always say as a book coach is, half the story is in our head and we think it's on the page, but it's not.
Right.
So when a reader goes and reads it, they don't have ESP. We're not transmitting it that way. So there are little elements that they're missing. And when she first she's now read my first chapter like 5 times. It's been redone over and over again, because she'll say, okay, Elizabeth, why is this important? And in my brain, I know why it's important, but I haven't made that clear, nor have I laid any kind of like a curiosity. I haven't intrigued anybody to want to know why it's important. I've just said this thing.
Yeah. It's like that. You need to kind of set out those breadcrumbs and stuff. And it's like, that's one of those things that, I don't know, at least for me, I do that on a second pass or a third pass. You know what I mean? It's like, I tell my writing students, the first draft is for you. I mean, you've heard this advice, right? So the first draft is for you. So you understand what it is that you're trying to say, whether it's, an argument paper or a poem or whatever. And that's the same for me too. My first draft is so that I know what the hell I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And then from the second draft on, it has to be for the audience. It has to be so that the audience understands what it is I'm trying to say. And so, going through like that metaphor of like painting with layers, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, I feel like breadcrumbing is one of those layers. It's like, oh, you have to give hints of things to come. Otherwise, why would the reader care? you
But
know?
sometimes you don't know what those things are until you've
Exactly.
written them. So that's another
Totally.
thing that Neely has really continued to remind me of is, you won't know what the breadcrumb should be until you've written chapter 13.
Uh-huh.
You're on
Uh-huh.
chapter 8. So
Yeah.
that's why you've just got to get, and I always say to my authors, the first draft is just you, and this isn't my own thing that I came up with, somebody else did, but it's just you telling yourself the story.
Right.
Or reminding yourself of the story or the message if you're writing memoir or nonfiction. But from there, you get to, I love the layer analogy. I have heard that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard that one. And when it came to me, when I heard that metaphor, I was like, oh, that's totally how I write. Like I start kind of small in this layer as I go. And it means that sometimes, I'm revising for what seems like forever. But
well,
but
that's
I
an
think it's
interesting.
useful.
So that's an interesting question. What portion would you consider is writing, like getting the first, I'm putting air quotes here, the first draft versus revising? Because now that you're saying that, I'm thinking, man, I think that we actually all spend like 85% of our time, air quote, revising.
Right. I think it's all writing. I think
Okay.
revising is writing.
True.
But I don't know. I think it differs from writer to writer. Some
Yeah.
people can just pump out a first draft so fast. And I'm like, whoa, you just did that in 6 weeks? Like, wow, I am not that person. But,
I'm not
but it
either.
is amazing when somebody can do that. But then they spend, the next year or so revising it.
Revising.
And which is still writing, but I feel like, especially with working with someone, having someone give you feedback as you go, so that so that you're more confident in that, or at least I'm more confident that I'm not going to write my way into a hole. So, you know what I mean? And so that
Absolutely.
having somebody saying, "Oh, where is this going?" And it's like, "Oh, I don't know. Let's talk about that."
I actually have no idea. Well,
Yeah.
because I've had authors before come to me with 90,000 words or 80,000 words. And typically this is memoir and nonfiction, not fiction. I've only recently started working with authors who are writing fiction, but because I'm never comfortable coaching. I never understand book. And this isn't a dismissal of anyone, but I don't understand book coaches who have never written a book. I'm not saying you can't do it, especially if you're a teacher, if you're a writing instructor, or if you have expertise, but people who just step into this space and are like, today I've decided I'm a book coach. Like yesterday I was a life coach. Today I'm a book coach, right? They've never written a book. So for me, I have been dabbling in fiction for 20 years. I mean, I wrote my first, and all the air quotes in the world are around this novel in 97.
Wow.
I would be horrified. It will never see the light of day. It is so cringe awful.
Me too.
But
I got one of those too.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, like I don't even think I could read it now.
But don't you think that wasn't time lost because you learned something from it? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like one thing that you have to have as a book coach, whether or not you've written a book or not. And I agree. I think it would be really, really difficult to be an effective book coach if you haven't actually done the thing.
Right.
But you have to have a really keen eye for story,
Yes.
And that was like, I have a book that I wrote like 20 years ago or something. It's not even like a full book. I think it was like 50,000 words of a book. And anyway, and that was one that I wrote my way into a hole, and I was like, oh, I think I need to take some classes and learn how to do this, because I don't think I really understand. I'm a reader. I've been a reader for a really long time. And I have a master's, and I know how to teach writing and all of that kind of stuff, but I don't think I really have a grasp of what story actually is. And so I think I need to go and learn that. And having that, and actually I have 2 books that are in a drawer. I have another one that I wrote after learning what story was, and it just wasn't as successful. It just wasn't really publishable. You know what I mean? But I learned
find that just so fascinating.
Yeah, me too. Like, I think there are a lot of us who have books that didn't really go anywhere, but they really taught us. If I hadn't written those two failed attempts, and I, fail in air quotes,
of course,
then I wouldn't have been able to write Designer You and get that one published. You know what I mean?
Well, I find this part fascinating because so often as a book coach, people will say, well, Elizabeth, I don't want to waste, this is wasted, right? They don't want to cut material because I'm also an editor. So if I'm editing and I say, we're off on a tangent, or this is peripheral and it really isn't feeding the story in any way, shape, or form. They understandably feel, I would too, like, oh my God, you're going to kill 12,000 words. Like this is, holy cow. But the thing is, it isn't ever wasted because you never know, number one, when it'll come back around. I mean, going back to Neely, because I'm apparently her biggest fan, and I'd probably be considered a stalker if she hadn't become such a good friend at this point.
She was on my blog, by the way. She was on my author spotlight series.
Was she really? I just adore
I hope
this
she
woman.
comes back for her second book. I hope she comes back. I'll have to reach out to her.
Just amazing. I absolutely love her. She tells the story regularly that her first book, well, the first one she wrote, not Love Buzz, but the first one she wrote, she hired a developmental editor and they trashed her. I mean, trashed her. Like it was awful. Like the feedback was so harsh. It was horrible. It made me, so she was like, this is never going to see the light of day. But as she said, she stripped it for parts. So there were pieces of that book that made it into Love Buzz, or that had an effect on Love Buzz, that influenced aspects of Love Buzz. And then what was interesting is that for Love Buzz, she didn't choose to hire a developmental editor before she has an agent. I mean, obviously, because she's with Harper, but before she got agented, she didn't. And she was the one who kind of turned me on to this notion that there are some agents who I want to talk to you about your experience in publishing too, but who don't want you to have a developmental edit done before you bring the book to them, because they want to see what you're capable of without
interesting,
that kind of feedback. Not what you're capable of. That makes it sound, but they want to see what's you versus what's you with assistance.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like being an author I get enough alone time. I really do. I mean, I spent, few hours today already by myself with my own thoughts and putting them on my computer. And I feel like there's not enough. People don't say it enough that this is really a team effort. Like putting a book out into the world is a team effort. And yes, it does start with the author. It does. And it is your idea and your words, but good grief, the product, light of the fire is the product that you see it's so much more because of the people who worked behind the scenes on this book. And that includes Dawn, my book coach. It includes my agent. It includes her assistant. It includes my acquisitions editor. It includes my developmental editor. It includes my copy editor, my proofreader, my book cover designer. Oh my God, I love this cover so much.
I love the cover.
I mean, like all of that was not me, and that product that you see online, that you see on Amazon or you see on bookshop.org is a team effort for sure. It is not me alone.
Well, this is a super interesting. Now, I didn't even plan to dive into this, but you just opened the door. So let's just go. Sure. So Light of the Fire is Lake Union. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I've been so intrigued by Lake Union. I interviewed Anne Garvin a few weeks ago about.
Oh my God. I just finished her book. Oh my God. I love her.
Which one?
The latest one. There's no coming back from here.
Yes. I couldn't stop.
Me too.
I
read it in like 2 days.
Exactly. So good. And then I started the one right before it, which is, I don't know. Oh God, it's a long title and I always mess it up, but I'll put it in the show notes. Her writing is just, you can't stop, right?
I think she's just she's hilarious. I just
She's
love her books.
hilarious. She's such a delightful person. I'm like, can we go on vacation together? So she was talking a lot about Lake Union, and what she kind of echoed what you just said, at least when it came to Lake Union, because they've done her last two and they're doing, I believe, her next one that's coming out the next, whenever that is, not soon enough for me. But she was talking about that, how it's such a team effort. And I think that this is one area where the landscape of publishing is starting to shift because not to dismiss Big Five at all, but there are a lot of smaller traditional houses that are popping up where there is a lot greater partnership. And then even in the self-publishing realm, there's this feeling so often that I'm alone. But you're not. You can be if you want to be, but I always encourage folks to hire a cover designer, hire a proofreader, hire an editor. There are people you can work with now that when I got started 19 years ago, that wasn't available. You couldn't hire someone who had worked at a big house, who was intimately familiar with the publishing process. So Daytime Drama was Touchpoint and Designer U was Hamilton Street Press. And I'm admittedly not familiar with either of those. Are they hybrid? Are they traditional? What?
So the first book came out actually with Crooked Cat Books.
Okay.
And they, so that came out in 2018.
Okay.
And they are small publisher, and the reason why I didn't stick with them is because they ended up switching focus. So they kind of got out of like the women's fiction, book club fiction game, and they switched over to thriller and crime fiction and stuff like that. And I think they're doing really well. And they changed their name too.
So did they change it to Hamilton Street Press?
No, that's me. So I actually got, my rights back and I just published it under my own imprint. So Hamilton Street Press, that's Hamilton Street is me.
I love it. I love this. Okay. So you did that one. And then what did you like about doing it yourself versus what, now that you know about the alternatives?
Yeah.
What are your feelings about, okay, this is a nice to have, this is a must have, this is a don't type thing with the different paradigms?
Yeah. So what was great is they let me keep that cover, just for free. They just gave it to me. They're like, good luck. And so I got to basically take that book and publish it under my own imprint without anybody really noticing that anything was different, which is kind of what I wanted. I was like, and that part was great. It was really learning, Jane Friedman.
Love Jane.
Me too. Excuse me. She had and I think you do this too. She had like a guide on how to self-publish.
Yeah.
And
I have a course. Oh, sorry.
Right.
I have a course.
Right. You have a course on it. And so I think, but in 2020, early 2020, oh God, 2020.
I know.
It's like we all have
a visceral reaction to the year.
But
I know.
Yeah, January 2020, that's what I was doing, was learning all I could about how to publish this book. And actually, one thing that I really wanted that publisher didn't do was to get away from Amazon only distribution. So I wanted it to be able to, be ordered by my local bookstore if they wanted to, or wherever. And so I had a wide distribution. I was able to format the book on my own, and basically have it look identical to the original product, which is what I wanted. But I ended up getting like I have all these extra ISBN numbers that I don't know what to do with. But anyway, but that's fine. I read what the recommendations were if you wanted to have ultimate control over that book. And I did. And that book still makes money. I'm like, I'm kind of amazed, It's like, oh, wow. Like I make more money off of that book than I did off of my second book, because I own it, it's mine.
Exactly. Right.
So that was really nice.
Did you see the sales uptick in that first book when the second book came out, or, did it become kind of a backlist?
Yeah, it did. And it's, it should be interesting to see what happens with those two books when the third book comes out.
Right.
But ultimately, I decided that I like working with a publisher. I like being able to work with an editor who, likes my book, all that stuff. And I really like, after my second book came out, and that also came out with a small press.
Okay.
I ended up getting an agent for the third book.
Okay.
And that's been a game changer because now I'm really not alone. My agent is, comes to all of the important meetings and she is part of every single decision. And that is so nice. I don't want to be negotiating contracts by myself. And
no, right.
No. So that's been wonderful. And she was the one who got the deal for Lake Union.
So what sort of facilitated your decision to go from Touchpoint? Was that an author financed?
No.
Okay.
They're also small traditional.
They're just small traditional. Okay. Yeah. From them to get an agent.
So this is funny. So I tried to get an agent with the first two books and no go, like pass. And my stories are too small, yada, yada, yada. They're not a big concept books.
Okay.
And I had queried Tina for, I think, the second book, maybe the first book too. She rejected me, but she kept saying, "Oh, but your next book, like, just please let me know and submit and yada, yada, yada." So anyway, so I submitted the third book to her and then I got an offer from another agent. And so then you do the thing where you send out to all the people who have your book. And Tina got right back to me and she was like, "Let me just read it." And she got back to me like within a day or two and was like, "Let's talk on the phone." And then, and I was so excited because I had already queried her. She already knew my writing, and I knew that I really liked her approach. So, and I'm not scared of small presses, so I didn't need somebody who was like, "Oh, big five or nothing." I'm like, "Oh, that's not necessarily me." I'm not scared of smaller presses. I just want some help, really. When it all comes down to it. I just want a little bit of help from somebody who knows the business a lot better than me and somebody who's nice and that I get along with. And
also be nice.
And also be nice. Yeah, just don't be a
really
jerk.
Small requirements over here. Yeah.
Most agents are actually really nice. But
I know.
But Tina was the one. So anyway,
I know, but it's just funny that we're at this point in time where that's like one of our main stipulations.
Ooh, yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. Don't be a jerk.
It's in the top 3 of what you want or what I want or would want if I were to work with an agent, maybe even above and beyond some other things.
Yeah.
That are more
I don't even want
focused.
Somebody to be a jerk like on my behalf. It's like, nope. Like
right. Exactly. Yes.
I really don't want that.
For point of reference, how long did it take to sell it to Lake Union once?
Oh, so it took, I think 10 months.
Really?
So we are on submission. Yeah. It went out like right around Thanksgiving of 2020.
Okay.
And so we were like, well, we probably won't hear from anyone until, January at the very earliest. So anyway, so I wasn't too worried, but I know it's like being on submission is, it's a nail biter.
So you were on submission in 2020, but the book is coming out in January of 2024.
Yes. It was supposed to come out last October.
Okay.
But it got pushed.
Okay.
But so we signed the contract in September of 2021. Okay. Wait, what year? What am I talking about?
Well, yeah, because daytime drama came out 2021,
we signed,
right?
Sorry, we signed. So I'm a year off because that's how I roll these days.
Right. I don't know what day it is. It's fine.
Okay. 2021, November of 2021 is when we went on submission.
Okay.
September of 2022 is when we signed the contract.
Okay.
And it was supposed to come out last October 2023, like a year later. So that it was actually relatively fast.
Yeah, I was going to say, first when we were thinking 2020 to 2024, I'm like, we just lost everyone who's considering traditional publishing.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's perimenopause. That's what
like
it is.
Half the rest of my life at this point. I'm not getting any younger. But no, that makes a ton of sense. That part, now what you've explained makes perfect sense. Okay. Why did it get pushed? Can you share that?
It got pushed. I think it wasn't a big deal. A lot of books actually got pushed. I think there was just some delays with cover and all of that stuff. And I think they just didn't have enough people at the time. So it was just, things were a little bit slower, running a little bit slower than they wanted to last spring. So
kind of like at Target, there are 20 checkout lines, but only 3 people actually working the checkout lines.
Yes.
So there's a bottleneck.
There's a bottleneck. That's it. Exactly it. I mean, it really is, that's
something a lot of people don't realize is that, first of all, your editor can change it's not frequent that it happens, but it can happen if your editor leaves the imprint.
I don't think it's that. It is common. I think it is pretty common because publishing industry is really hard. I don't think editors make enough money, and they can kind of bounce from position to position, imprint to imprint, or they can leave it all together and go do agenting, or, many of them are writers themselves and they need a break. And I mean,
especially if you have a multi-book deal, your editor can change between books. And I do know of people whose editors have changed midway through the book. And it's been challenging because the editor who bought the book, his acquisitions editor, loved the book, but then the person who acquired it by default for taking over for them, maybe it didn't love it quite as much, or just had a different personality. Yeah. And so there was this kind of new rapport that had to be built.
I know.
But you're absolutely right I recently saw they released a list of salaries, and they have gone up for the big 5 for all the positions, but still, I mean, when you consider that some of those editors live in New York City,
right,
and the disparity between men and women for the same position, this is a whole other conversation that we don't have to go down into the rabbit hole, but it was insane. But I couldn't believe how low the salaries were for senior editors.
Yeah, I know. Like you said, they're living in the most expensive place in the country.
I mean, it was under 6 figures.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know how you do that but anyway,
I don't understand why it's not like all virtual, like why they can't just work remotely.
Right.
I edit in Montana
very well
or
from
something.
My couch. Right. In Montana.
I mean, why not?
I agree completely.
This is why I need an agent and I need help, because I actually don't really understand why you have to be in New York City, or if you're, at Amazon, why you have to live in Seattle or something.
Well, I don't understand any of that. And I mean, now it's gotten to where so many people are doing it remotely. I think it just depends on the company and whether or not the person leading from the top says everyone needs to be in this $7 quadrillion a year office suite that we are spending money on instead of, paying people higher salaries or whatever it is. I don't know all the nuances of it, but changing editors is something that happens, but also dates do get pushed.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
I know
lots of reasons.
And it's usually pretty mundane reasons.
Sure.
But I was really kind of already looking forward to October release and amping up for that. And then when they said it was going to be January, I said, oh, wah, wah. So
it got pushed by 3 months, not a year and 3 months.
No, 3 months. Yeah. 3 months. So it's like, and now I can see actually there's lots of advantages of coming out in January. So I'm not, there's advantages and disadvantages, whatever time you come out. But I feel like January actually is a pretty nice time to come out.
I agree. And I'll tell you why, for whatever it's worth. Number one, your copyright is now 2024, not 2023, which I feel like if you're going to be in the last quarter of the year and you want to push it, I'm not saying it's bad to come out in October or November, but for some reason, people look at the age of books and they see it as being brand new. Or if somebody comes out second week in December and they've got the previous year, it looks to people like it's a year old and it only
That's
has
true.
6 reviews, and that looks odd.
Right.
But the other thing is, people will often say to me when they're launching their book, or I'm launching their book through I have a small hybrid press that really is intended to just help my own authors. Like I don't accept unsolicited submissions and all that. It just kind of came to be because people said, I know you, I trust you, you're nice. And so can you do it? But at any rate, they often want to come out right before Christmas because they say it's a great Christmas gift. And I'm like, right. With the other 8 billion products that people it's so hard to get seen.
Yeah.
For a holiday thing.
Yeah. It's definitely a crowded time. Even though this is my 3rd book, my first 2 were with small publishers.
Yeah.
No one knows me from Adam. So it's like, as far as, thank you. Thank you. But, but they, it's hard to,
by the way, no one knows me from Adam. So the fact that now I know you, that's not going to be terribly helpful, just to be clear. But anyway.
I'm going to take it. I don't care, Elizabeth. I'm going to take it. Yeah. And it is a crowded time, and it is a nice time to come out. The people are talking about books a lot right now, but there is something to be said about coming out at a time that's not as crowded. People hopefully will have their, bookstore gift certificates, and maybe they can use it on a brand new book that comes out in January. We'll see. But, so I try and see the positive in wherever I land. Plus I had no control over this anyway. So it is what it is.
Exactly. You kind of have to just go with this trust that even though it doesn't make sense, it will make sense. But my personality is one whereby I'm always, or often, I'm always like, this isn't how it was supposed to be.
Right.
Right. So what was going back to the light of the fire, what was the challenge that you gave yourself for this one?
Oh,
what did you want to explore?
This one, I really wanted to write something that had a little bit of a mystery element to it. Just a hint, I still wanted it to feel like a book that would come from me, that had my voice, with, characters that I could, definitely find relatable. But I wanted a little bit of a mystery in there. I just wanted to try it. And, we'll see. I'm doing it again in another project. This time the mystery is a little bit more front and center. But I wanted just a hint of a mystery in this one. And it was fun. It was actually really fun to kind of learn about that.
Well, I wanted to ask, and I don't know if it would be bad to give it this away, but the prologue, the preface.
Yeah.
So there's such a debate about prologues and prefaces and all these things, right? Like, do they work? Do they not work? And some agents really like them and some agents really don't like them. And I've even heard that some agents will not even submit a book if it does have one, or the whole thing. So I love talking to people who end up having them and where they work really well. Emma Gray's book, The Last Love Note, had a prologue that I said, I'm just going to read the prologue. I wasn't finished with another book, but I just want to get a sense.
Yeah.
I remember DMing her at like 11:30. She's in Australia, but at like 11:30 p.m. and saying, it is well past my bedtime and I can't stop. My eyes are burning. Your prologue, same thing.
Oh,
so good. And it's so brief, but I read it and I was like, oh my God. So my question is, how did that come? Was that the first thing, or was that a later layer?
A much later layer. Okay. So this book is set, it is about friendship between 2 women. They're coming back together after 20 years. And it's definitely a friendship story. However, it's also soccer is part of it. It's set in a soccer world. And my acquisitions editor at Lake Union was like, well, we've got to make sure that we push the friendship aspect of it. And I was like, well, yeah, right. It's a book about friendship. And she was like, well, we need to change the title. The original title was Offside. She was like, that's going to put people off. They're going to think this is a book about soccer only. And I was like, okay, I really like that title, but okay. And so we came up with another title. And my first chapter was about soccer. It was set in the middle of a game. So it was, and that one got chopped. I chopped it out.
All together.
It was, you got to see how Beth got hurt. And it was in that game. And I went back and forth with that chapter. My book coach was like, I don't know, I like it. Like, the game and stuff, and it really kind of resonates. And we're getting to know Beth in this way, but it might put off a lot of your readers. So anyway, we get to Lake Union. Is like, we like it, but we got to get rid of that chapter. And I think you need a prologue. So
I wish, I don't do these videos yet, or I don't do these podcasts yet video, but sometimes I wish I did. And this is one of those times, because if people listening could see the smile you got on your face from the moment you said, so my acquisitions editor, and I'm trying to decide if there's like a something in there that you're like, do I say this? Or like there's some.
But that's the thing. Again, you don't write a book in a vacuum. It's
I know
all of this back and forth and stuff. And yes, and I think the book is so much better, actually, because of that prologue. We don't need to see the soccer game. We don't need to see that soccer game. We get to know what the after effects are. We're going to get to know Beth no matter what. And yes, soccer does mean a lot to her, but a lot of other things mean a lot to her too. Relationship with her dad, her relationship with Allie, And so I think ultimately that was a great choice, but it was really, really nice to have that feedback, because my instincts were to keep that soccer in and not do the beginning like that, not have a prologue.
So what's your process, if you have one, for kind of making peace with, like, when someone gives you notes or feedback, my tendency is to immediately go, nope, I don't want to do that. Right. So what is your process for letting the dust settle and then making a decision?
Yeah. It's definitely taking time to let it sink in. I really want to think about it before I do anything, because otherwise I'm just kind of reacting to it. And it could be, and usually when I react like that, I'm going to make a bad decision, So I just need to let it sink in, let it marinate a little bit, and then decide how to go forward. And it could be that, I come up with a different idea, well, okay, let's take this out, but what about this instead? And so having that kind of dialogue back and forth, so it feels good and right for the story for me, but also kind of honors that this is a book that's meant for an audience to enjoy and appreciate, to get something out of that. And it's the further I get into publishing, I understand that it really is all about the reader. It's actually not, the further away it gets from me, it means it's not about me. And eventually, when this book launches into the world on the 23rd of January, it's really not going to be about me. It's going to be about how the readers take it and what they learn from it. And actually, I kind of love that, because readers will read something in a way that I didn't necessarily understand, or I didn't get, or it's like, oh, I totally see why you see it that way. I didn't think I meant that, but I think I did, and that
they
kind of thing is so
receive it
cool.
based on where they are.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which of course can be challenging, because as the writer, like, we have no control over whether someone is, I'm often extremely surprised, not only by the lines that people love in my books, but by the lines that I communicate to an author that I loved in their book. And they're like, Oh, that just came out one Wednesday. Like that, I wasn't even trying. And so it's so interesting how I agree.
think it's
That's
really
one of the
fun.
most fun parts.
Yeah. I think it's so exciting.
But in my experience, that's one of the biggest challenges between fiction and memoir, because they have to be, this is just my opinion, but memoir, in order for it to be compelling, needs to be written like fiction.
Yeah.
So it's like creative nonfiction, but it's not, right? Because it's the full story, not just based on a piece of the story, which is more or less what creative fiction is, or creative nonfiction. But what's interesting is that memoir it's all your story. And so it can really feel like an affront when someone suggests that piece isn't going to be interesting to readers, because what the author oftentimes hears is I'm not interesting.
Right.
Yeah. My story isn't valuable or worthy. And so
how do you frame that? So because I was a book coach for memoirists too, how did you frame that kind of feedback?
Like, how do I gently, very gently? I mean, I have been really, I consider it such a blessing. I've worked with a number of authors who are writing about really tough stuff.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, addiction, suicide. I mean, a lot of, and so I don't even know how to well express that it's so important for me to have my heart in it with them, because I don't understand what they've gone through from personal experience at all. I have to remove that. I don't even know that I have it, but I think a lot of editors don't do this, or coaches don't do this, where you have to remove that critical side where you say in a harsh way, nobody cares about that.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially that is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just, it has to be delivered in a way where it's like, okay, let's look at the whole of the story. One thing I do is I ask the author to tell me why that piece is valuable, because in the end, the way I'm reading it, it doesn't feel aligned. But if they can explain it to me, sometimes when I hear their words, I can figure out how to restructure it so that we don't have to pull it entirely. You know, we might shorten it, we might rephrase it, we might move it, because it might be a point that they're trying to make. They're just trying to make it from sort of this myopic lens.
Yeah.
And it's very personal and emotional, and you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Right.
Totally. It's so hard. Like, you don't want to kill their spirit, you know, but at the same time, they're writing a story. Again, it comes back to, we're writing a story for an audience, you know, and we want them to get something out of it.
Well, so often I'll just simply ask, tell me, and I'll be very clear. I'm not challenging you. I'm asking you, tell me why this matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes they just need one person to hear them. And then once they've explained to me why it matters, they'll go away and they'll come back and go, you know what? I don't think I need to have this in there.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Tell me why this matters. And it's not a challenge. I love that.
Yeah. It's
I think I might steal that.
Go ahead. It's definitely not. And that's what I meant by, like, I have to care. I can't be, because I'm not saying defend this.
No.
I'm saying help me understand.
Help me understand.
I'm the idiot here. Right. Because those are really complex emotions. And even with fiction, you know, in writing this first thing that I mean, he'll ever see the light of day, who knows? But, you know, Neely has kind of said that to me with different words, but, you know, why does this matter? And then do you ever find that when you write fiction, you're writing from like something of you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's
I don't think it cannot be part of me.
Either.
You know?
I don't either. But sometimes people will say, like, no, it's wholly, like, everything is made up. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, most of it's made up, but a lot of it is, you know, I'll have people say like, oh, is this character you? And it's like, I mean, a little bit, or, you know, or I I do think that way about that one small thing. Or it might be these characters are, kind of a combination of some people that I know or acquaintances that I run into or people that I see on the bus. It comes from me, but it's not, it's definitely not. I think about like Taylor Jenkins Reid and her books and how I heard her talk about the latest books, the like seven husbands
Mm-hmm.
and Daisy Jones and these books that are set these big books that are set kind of in the Hollywood area. And she was saying that she really wanted to write books that were definitely not her. Like she wanted to get as far away from her as possible, write about a woman who's like great at tennis, a tennis pro, like how cool is that? And I think about that and I think, yes, I would like to be able to do that. Maybe that'll be my next challenge is get a character who is as far away from my kind of thinking as possible. But it's really hard to do that. It's really hard. Like my husband one time was like, you should read a book about psychopaths. It was like The Mind of the Psychopath or something like that. Just so you can understand that there are people who think wildly different from you. Yeah. I was like, but I don't want to write about a psychopath.
Right. I don't want to bring that into right, exactly.
But it was good advice. Like, you have to remember that not everyone's logic is going to be the same as your own, And so I try and keep that in mind when I'm writing my characters. They make decisions. They make a lot of decisions that I would never make in my own life.
Well, now you've intrigued me. Like, I got to get through this book before everyone's like, just get through this book. Cause I've got a list. I actually have a list of like 13 book titles.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
That, and I'm like, but some of them are fiction, some of them aren't. But, but I like that idea that the challenge I think is there's no relatable, like I don't know why I thought this. Did you say something about skiing?
Did I?
I don't know. I don't think you did, but for some reason I thought furthest thing from me is a professional skier.
Oh, yeah.
But then I'm like, well, how do I write that? Then I have to go, can I write that off? If I have to go take ski lessons to write a book, does that make it a write-offable expense? Like,
sure. Yeah, why not?
So now do I have to go to the Swiss Alps and hire a ski instructor? Is that the deal? I like that. That's really interesting and intriguing though, because in fact, I noticed that when someone gives me, and by someone, I mean Neely, a note on my character that I feel defensive about, it's an immediate clue that I've projected part of myself onto that character in that scene or in that instant or in that, because otherwise I don't care.
Right.
Like if she says this makes no sense, I go, okay.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's, I mean that now we're getting into like what characters do we have any business writing?
Right.
I'm not a professional soccer player, but I played soccer.
Sure.
And I was a soccer mom, Yeah. So like I know what that feels like. Or I'm not a soap opera actress. But I dabbled in theater, I lived in LA. My husband was working as part of the entertainment industry, so I knew a little bit about it, but that's definitely not me. And that character was like very far away from me. She made a lot of decisions that I wouldn't have made, but the challenge was making them believable decisions anyway,
Yeah.
And that's fun. It's fun when you can do that. That's really fun when you can pull that off.
I agree. Now what I'm realizing is that when I read other novels, I don't know. This is a new question for me, I think, with people who write fiction is, what were you trying? What was your challenge to yourself in writing this book? And so for your next one, when you come back to talk about the next book and you say, it was my challenge to write about a rodeo Someone who
Yeah.
owns a rodeo.
Yeah. A rodeo clown. What's it like to be a rodeo clown? I really don't want to know. To be honest.
That could go horror. It could go comedy. It could go in so many different directions.
It could go in all of those directions.
All the directions. Oh my God. I truly could talk to you all day, but I have one more question because I'm looking at that table behind you that is there are books almost falling off of it.
I know.
So the question is, what are you reading right now?
So, okay. I am finally reading the Secret History. Have you?
What is that?
It's the Donna Tartt's first book.
I have no idea.
She wrote The Goldfinch.
Oh,
right. So the Secret History is a book that I have tried and then put down. Like I try it and I put down, and it's also like almost 600 pages. So I was like, I don't have time for this, and I just couldn't get into it. And holy moly, I started it like a few days ago and I'm like ripping through it. Like I cannot put it down. It's just, for some reason, it's just sticking with me this time, which is
funny.
Another lesson in that, even there are books that, maybe don't finish or whatever, or I usually finish books that I start, but it's like, if I start it and after the first chapter or something, I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. I'll put it down. But which is what I did with this one so many times. And for some reason, I am just absolutely loving it.
That is such a bizarre thing. And it's something that I talk about that often. Like, there's no longer this push of you have 3 weeks to make your book sell well. So somebody could buy your book and then come back to it a year later. And I mean, with all the luck in the world, they're a very influential TikToker and they just post about it 18 months after the book's released. And now it shoots up and everyone, wants it in their house. But the other thing you just said, I'm going to say really quickly, that was, I read something about, I don't think it was Jane Friedman, but it might have been either Jane Friedman or Joanna Penn talking about author brand? It was basically the notion that people don't remember the author's name. They remember the book title.
Oh,
so when you said Donna Tartt, nothing clicked for me. But when you
that's
said
interesting.
The Goldfinch,
yeah,
I was like, oh, duh.
Yeah.
So that's just another interesting aspect, I think, of the industry.
I think that's interesting too. But she's only come out, I think, with 3 books. Like she puts out like a book a decade or something. Like the Secret History came out in the early 90s.
And look at it. Like it's been like 20 some years and now you're tearing through it.
I am tearing through it.
And now I'm going to have to get it because you said it. And so
it's so good. I mean, but of course, like I also just finished Anne Garvin's book. That book I tore through. Like I love a good, quick, funny read. And I mean, she's absolutely got my number. But that book I just finished Pineapple Street. That was really good.
That's on my list too.
Oh my God. It was so good. Tom Lake.
Oh my gosh, my mom just gave me Tom Lake for my birthday. And
oh my God, it's so good.
It's getting unmanageable.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody mentioned this the other day on Instagram or somewhere. I did a post and I said, I'm looking for the best air quote books of 2023 that aren't on the New York Times bestseller list.
Right.
Like give me books that you absolutely loved.
Yeah.
Well, now you've given me several that weren't, and they don't have to have been published in 2023. Like that's the other thing about it is just books that, haven't. And one of them, somebody said, and I've got it, I know it's out on one of my stacks out there, My Last Innocent Year.
Oh, who wrote that?
Have you read that one? Daisy Florin.
Okay. I'm writing it down.
I think it was Laura Belgray, and her book, Tough Titties. Have you read Tough Titties?
Oh, I have it. I haven't read it yet, but oh my God, I know.
It's fabulous. So it's just, I asked for recommendations and then I think, what am I doing?
I know. Yeah. You can see all of those books back there. In fact, the ones that are stacked are ones that I need to get through.
That's what I'm looking at is the stack. I feel so validated right now because I mean, if you hear a loud thud at any point while we're on this, it's the bookshelf collapsing.
Yep.
It's a serious problem.
Yep. I mean,
and then people say people don't read anymore.
God, no. I do read. I just feel like I wish I could read faster sometimes.
Me too.
You know, it's just
me too. And then I love savoring it though.
I like that too, but at the same time, there's just so much I want to read. I'm like, oh, I really want to get through that. I really want to be a part of the conversation. Like, I don't want to be left out.
I know. Like Zibby, do you know who Zibby Owens is?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. So Zibby does a podcast every day of the week.
Oh, I know.
At least 5 days a week. And I'm like, how? She has 4 children. How are you reading? And she's admitted she's a quicker reader.
She's a really fast reader. She explained it, how she does it. Did you read what she said, how she does it? She does, it's an interesting way of kind of skimming. Like she doesn't necessarily read every single word.
Okay.
She might kind of skim, or she'll read the first sentence of each paragraph. And then if it seems like it's going to be like a big long description, she'll kind of move on. So she can get through like a book in an afternoon.
Okay. I can't. And I mean, if I were doing a podcast every day, I think that's what you have to do,
but she has like 20 full-time jobs. Like I don't get it. I mean, hats off to her, but she has more energy than anyone I've ever seen.
Everyone I talk to on this podcast who knows Zibby, we all say the exact same thing. We're like, we don't understand. And then that morning, inevitably, like this morning, she made a post that there's a big event happening in New York City in January with like 15 authors. And the thing I love about Zibby is it's not just her authors. I mean, she's just a celebrant of authors across the board. Doesn't matter who you're published with. Yes. But all these people are showing up and, it's a ticketed event, but I'm thinking, it's so much. I
know. I don't understand. I absolutely get you. Like the thought, like my husband and I, we do like it's such a low key thing, but every year we try and do an Oscar party. And we invite like our neighbors and stuff, but it is a source of stress. Like the months leading up to it, we're like, I don't know how much we're going to spend this time. What are we going to serve? Are we going to make people dress up? Like, I mean, it is decorations. Oh my God, we have to get decorations. I mean, it is like, we don't really fight or anything like that, but we'll fight about that.
I'm just trying to plan the charcuterie board for Christmas morning. Okay. Like that is my stress right now.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
I think Zibby's amazing, by the way.
No, I think so too.
I don't understand her. I want to borrow. If she could bottle and sell a little bit of this, I would pay top dollar. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth.
And your wisdom. I cannot wait for the book to come out. I'll link everything in the show notes, and I just so appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, this is your friendly reminder to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone you know has a great story or message, but isn't sure what to do next. Also, remember to check out publishaprofitablebook.com for book writing resources and tips, and to see all the ways we can work together to get your book out into the world. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk with you again soon.